Ladies and gentlemen, life is often seen as a choice between two seemingly opposite forces, discipline and freedom. On the surface, freedom feels like the absence of rules, the ability to do whatever we want, whenever we want. Discipline, on the other hand, appears restrictive. Boundaries, routines, and self-control. But the truth is deeper. Real freedom is born out of discipline. Without discipline, freedom becomes chaos. Imagine a student who never studies, a worker who never shows up on time, or an artist who never practices. They may feel free in the moment, but in the long run they are trapped by failure, by regret, and by wasted potential. Discipline is not a prison. It is a tool that builds structure, strengthens character, and creates opportunities. By disciplining our mind, our habits, and our time, we actually gain the freedom to live with purpose, to pursue our dreams, and to choose our future. True freedom is not the license to indulge in every desire. It is the power to control those desires. A disciplined person can say no when necessary and yes when it truly matters. They are free not because life is easy, but because they have trained themselves to master it. So, discipline and freedom are not enemies, they are partners. Discipline is the path, and freedom is the destination. Freedom is one of the most powerful words in human history. At its simplest level, freedom is often understood as the ability to make choices without interference, to live life on our own terms, and to follow our desires without restrictions. For many people, freedom means doing what they want, when they want, and how they want. It is associated with independence, individuality, and a sense of control over one's life. But if we look closely, freedom is not as simple as it appears. Absolute freedom, where there are no boundaries at all, can actually create disorder. Imagine a world where every driver ignored traffic lights in the name of freedom. The result wouldn't be liberty, but accidents and chaos. True freedom cannot exist in a space without limits, because boundaries protect freedom from turning into harm. Freedom also carries responsibility. It is not just the absence of rules, but the presence of choice and accountability. For example, a student is free to either study or ignore their lessons. That choice belongs to them. But the outcome of that choice, success or failure, is also their responsibility. In this way, freedom is not just a privilege. It is a test of maturity, a mirror that reflects who we truly are when no one is forcing us to act a certain way. So, while freedom feels like unlimited options, its real value lies in how wisely we exercise it. It is not simply about breaking away from control, but about directing our lives with purpose, meaning, and responsibility. Discipline is often misunderstood as a form of punishment or restriction, but in reality, it is one of the most empowering forces in life. At its core, discipline is the ability to control one's thoughts, emotions, and actions in order to achieve a higher goal. It is the practice of setting standards for ourselves and consistently following them, even when it feels uncomfortable or inconvenient. Think of discipline as the invisible bridge between goals and achievements. Dreams alone do not create success. Discipline is what transforms them into reality. It shows up in waking up early to prepare for the day, in dedicating time to study or work when distractions call, and in choosing long-term rewards over short-term pleasures. It is the steady effort that builds momentum, character, and results. Unlike freedom, which often emphasizes choice, discipline emphasizes consistency. It is the daily habit of doing what must be done, not what we feel like doing. For example, An athlete does not train only when they are motivated. They train every day because discipline creates progress. A writer does not wait for inspiration to strike. They sit down and write consistently because discipline fuels creativity. Discipline also provides structure. In a world full of noise and temptations, discipline acts like a compass, guiding us back to our true purpose. It removes confusion, reduces wasted energy, and strengthens self-control, far from being a cage. Discipline is a framework that supports growth, just as the roots of a tree give it stability to reach higher into the sky. When we practice discipline, we are not limiting ourselves. We are shaping ourselves. Every small act of discipline, whether it is managing time, keeping promises, or practicing patience, builds inner strength. And this strength becomes the foundation for achieving freedom in its truest form. Many people mistakenly believe that freedom means the absence of rules, limits, or self-control. They imagine that doing whatever they want, whenever they want, is the highest form of freedom. But this is only an illusion of freedom, not true freedom. In fact, when freedom is not guided by discipline, it quickly turns into a trap. Take the example of a student who feels free to skip classes, avoid studying, and spend all their time on entertainment. In the short term, this might look like freedom, no rules, no restrictions, no pressure. But when exam day arrives, that same freedom reveals its cost, stress, failure, and regret. Instead of being free, the student becomes a prisoner of their own careless choices. The same applies to health. A person might say they are free to eat whatever they like and avoid exercise. At first, this feels liberating. But over time, such choices lead to illness, weakness, and dependence on others. What appeared to be freedom was, in reality, a slow surrender of control. This illusion can also be seen in financial life. Someone might think they are free to spend recklessly, chasing pleasures without saving or planning. But when debt piles up and opportunities slip away, they realize that this freedom has chained them to consequences they cannot escape. The lesson is clear. Freedom without discipline is not freedom at all. It is chaos disguised as liberty. It creates short-term pleasure, but long-term suffering. Real freedom comes not from the absence of discipline, but from its presence. Discipline may feel restrictive in the moment, but it prevents us from becoming slaves to failure, regret, and missed opportunities. Discipline is not just a rule we follow. It is a powerful tool that shapes our lives and determines our success. Just like a craftsman needs tools to build a masterpiece, every person needs discipline to build a meaningful and purposeful life. Without discipline, our talents remain unused, our dreams remain ideas, and our potential remains locked away. Think of discipline as a builder of opportunities. A student who consistently studies opens doors to knowledge, success, and career growth. An athlete who trains daily, even in the rain and cold, creates the possibility of victory on the field. An entrepreneur who manages time, effort, and resources with discipline builds a business that thrives while others give up. Discipline sharpens our abilities and transforms effort into achievement. Discipline is also a tool for character development. It teaches us patience when results take time, resilience when challenges arise, and humility when success arrives. Without discipline, we are like clay without form, shapeless and fragile. With discipline, we are molded into individuals of strength, self-control, and purpose. What makes discipline such a unique tool is that it works silently. It doesn't give instant rewards, but it lays foundations that last. Waking up early, Keeping promises, working steadily, and practicing self-control may seem ordinary, but they are the very actions that build extraordinary lives. Just as a sculptor chips away at stone bit by bit, discipline chips away at weaknesses, shaping us into the best version of ourselves. Discipline also provides clarity in a noisy world. With endless distractions, social media, entertainment, and constant demands, it's easy to lose focus. But discipline cuts through the noise, keeping us aligned with our true goals. It's like a compass that always points us back to our direction, reminding us of what really matters. So, discipline is not something that takes away our freedom. It is the very tool that creates opportunities, strengthens our character, and gives us the ability to live with purpose. One of the greatest challenges in life is learning how to balance our desires with self-control. Desires are natural. They drive us to eat, to rest, to achieve, to love, and to enjoy life. Without desire, there would be no ambition, no motivation, no creativity. But when desires run unchecked, they can control us instead of us controlling them. And that is where discipline comes in. Discipline acts as the guiding hand that manages our desires, ensuring they serve us instead of enslaving us. For example, we may desire comfort, but if comfort becomes the only priority, we will never grow, never challenge ourselves, never step out of our safe zone. On the other hand, if we learn to control that desire for comfort, we can push ourselves toward progress and eventually enjoy greater rewards. The same applies to pleasure. Everyone desires entertainment, relaxation, and fun. But if pleasure becomes the master of our life, it blinds us to responsibilities and future consequences. Discipline does not eliminate pleasure. It teaches us when to say no and when to say yes. It teaches us to delay gratification today so we can enjoy greater freedom tomorrow. In truth, freedom without control of desire is like a ship without a captain, adrift, vulnerable to storms, and destined to crash. But when discipline takes the wheel, desires become the wind that powers the journey, not the waves that drown the ship. This balance of desire and control is what separates momentary happiness from lasting fulfillment. A person who indulges in every craving may feel free for a moment, but a person who disciplines their desires enjoys a deeper freedom, the freedom of health, success, self-respect, and peace of mind. So, discipline does not destroy desire, it refines it. It helps us choose wisely, act responsibly, and live with balance, ensuring that our desires become stepping stones toward growth instead of chains that hold us back. To truly understand the relationship between discipline and freedom, we must look at real life examples where discipline transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes. Theory may inspire us, but examples show us the living proof of how discipline works in practice. Take the life of a student. On one side, there is the temptation to sleep late, avoid assignments, and spend hours on distractions. In the moment, that feels like freedom. But when exams arrive, or when opportunities for scholarships and careers open, the undisciplined student has nothing to show. Contrast this with the disciplined student who sets aside time daily to study, manage priorities, and stay consistent. They may seem restricted compared to their peers, but in reality, they gain the freedom to choose their future, secure opportunities, and build confidence in themselves. Now consider the athlete. A runner, for example, does not become a champion simply by wishing for victory. They train when their body aches, practice when others rest, and follow strict routines for diet, sleep, and exercise. To outsiders, This may look like sacrifice or even limitation. But when the athlete stands on the podium with a medal around their neck, they experience a freedom that few others know, the freedom of mastery, achievement, and recognition earned through discipline. The same principle applies to an artist or musician. Talent is only the beginning. Without discipline, it fades. The guitarist who practices scales for hours, the painter who sketches daily, or the writer who commits to writing consistently all harness discipline to sharpen their skills. Later, this discipline gives them the freedom to create masterpieces effortlessly, to express themselves fluently, and to inspire others with their art. Even in everyday life, the principle is clear. A person who manages their finances with discipline, saving consistently, avoiding unnecessary debt, and planning for the future, enjoys freedom later. They are not enslaved by loans or constant stress, but free to travel, invest, or retire comfortably. Meanwhile, the one who spends recklessly feels free in the moment, but ends up trapped by financial burdens. These examples reveal a simple truth: discipline may feel like limitation in the present, but it always produces freedom in the future. Whether it is in studies, sports, art, or finances, discipline creates the structure that allows freedom to flourish. Many people think of discipline and freedom as enemies, as if discipline only takes away freedom and freedom only weakens discipline. But this is a misunderstanding. In reality, discipline and freedom are not opposing forces. They are partners that depend on one another. If we see discipline as rules and freedom as choice, then we realize they actually complete each other. Discipline without freedom can feel harsh, rigid, and joyless. Freedom without discipline can feel chaotic, reckless, and dangerous. But when they come together, they create balance. A life that is both structured and fulfilling. Consider the example of a musician. Without discipline, their freedom to play music turns into noise because they lack the control to produce harmony. Without freedom, their discipline turns into endless drills with no expression. But when discipline and freedom work together, the musician gains the technical skill to control their instrument and the creative freedom to express emotion. This partnership is what creates true music. The same applies to our daily lives. A person who follows discipline blindly, without freedom, may live like a robot, efficient but without joy or purpose. On the other hand, a person who lives with unlimited freedom but no discipline may waste their life in distractions, never reaching their true potential. Only when we balance the two can we live with both progress and satisfaction. Even in society, this partnership is visible. Laws and rules represent discipline, while rights and choices represent freedom. If a society has only discipline, strict rules without individual choice, it becomes oppressive. But if it has only freedom, choices without responsibility, it becomes unstable. A healthy society is built when both discipline and freedom coexist, protecting order while allowing individuals to thrive. Therefore, the key is not to choose between discipline and freedom, but to recognize that they need each other. Discipline provides the framework, and freedom provides the spirit. Together, they create a life that is both meaningful and liberated. When we step back and look at the bigger picture, the relationship between discipline and freedom becomes clear. Discipline is the path, and freedom is the destination. Every act of self-control, every routine we follow, and every sacrifice we make through discipline is not an end in itself. It is a step toward greater freedom. Think of life as a journey. Discipline is the road we must walk. sometimes difficult and tiring, but it is the only road that leads to the freedom we seek. The student who disciplines themselves to study earns the freedom to choose a career they love. The athlete who disciplines their body gains the freedom to compete at the highest levels. The individual who disciplines their habits, eating healthy, exercising, managing time, earns the freedom of good health, energy, and a long life. This principle is universal. Whether it is financial independence, personal growth, or inner peace, the destination we call freedom is never reached without walking the disciplined path. People who avoid discipline may think they are enjoying freedom, but in reality, they are only delaying the struggles that come later. Freedom without discipline is like trying to harvest without planting seeds. It simply doesn't exist. Discipline also gives us a deeper kind of freedom, the freedom from fear, regret, and dependency. A disciplined mind is free from the fear of failure because it has prepared. A disciplined worker is free from regret because they know they gave their best effort. A disciplined individual is free from dependency because they built strength, resilience, and self-reliance. Ultimately, discipline is not the enemy of freedom, it is its foundation. It is the soil in which freedom grows, the training that gives us mastery, and the practice that allows us to live fully and independently. When we understand this, we no longer see discipline as restriction, but as the very road that leads us to the destination of true freedom. The world often asks us to choose between discipline and freedom, but the truth is we cannot have one without the other. Discipline gives structure to our choices, while freedom gives meaning to our discipline. One is the root, the other is the fruit. If we embrace discipline in our studies, our work, our health, and our character, we unlock the freedom to live with confidence, purpose, and dignity. And if we chase freedom without discipline, we find ourselves trapped in regret and limitation. So let us remember, discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It is its greatest protector. When we master ourselves through discipline, we are no longer slaves to impulse, fear, or circumstance. We become free to live, free to grow, and free to fulfill our true potential. Thank you.